Have you ever noticed, when you enter some houses, an inexplicable peace envelops you? In other houses, everything seems fine, but there seems to be an invisible weight. Padre Pio used to say that this difference was no coincidence, and he had a very clear warning, especially regarding where the cross was placed within the house. One of Padre Pio's most misunderstood warnings was, "Not every cross protects." People recoiled when they heard this sentence, because in their minds the cross automatically associated with safety, sanctification, and divine protection. Padre Pio did not deny the power of the cross. On the contrary, he reminded people of its seriousness. According to him, the cross is not a decoration, a habit, or an object filling space on the wall. The cross is a boundary, and boundaries are either drawn correctly or treated as if they don't exist at all. Padre Pio often told those who visited him, "The devil does not fear the sacred, but is emboldened by the trivialization of the sacred." This saying was central to his teaching. A cross, if hung unconsciously, if placed without intention, if it is there merely because it has to be, does not spiritually close a door. On the contrary, it makes one feel safe. This is the most dangerous situation, because a person lives defenseless without realizing that they are not protected. According to Padre Pio, the cross declares a decision in its place. What is this house open to? What is it closed to? This question is asked silently but constantly. The cross is the answer to this question. But a cross placed wrongly, left haphazardly, without thought about its meaning, cannot provide this answer. It remains merely a shape. Pio particularly emphasized this point. Sacred objects are not mechanical. They should not be thought of as automatically functioning talismans. A cross hung by an unbelieving hand cannot define the boundaries of a believing home. The issue here is not how devout a person is, but how conscious they are. Padre Pio described the cross like a lock. A lock is very valuable, but a lock without a key does not close the door. Intention, respect, and correct placement are that key. People often attribute feelings of unease in their homes to external causes: fatigue, stress, financial difficulties. According to Pio, some unrest stems from unseen transgressions of boundaries. A feeling that something is amiss at home, pointless arguments, heightened tension at night. All of these can indicate that protection has symbolically been suspended. The cross here acts as a warning sign, but if the warning sign falls, it offers no guidance. This is precisely what Padre Pio meant when he said, "Not every cross protects." The cross only generates seriousness when taken seriously. It only sets boundaries when approached with respect, and only when consciously placed does it present a silent but unwavering stance against the unseen world. Therefore, the first step in Pio's teaching was always this: look at your home, look at your cross, and ask yourself this question: is this truly protection or merely habit? Padre Pio insisted so strongly on this warning because people tend to trivialize the sacred over time. A cross that is initially viewed with reverence becomes, over the years, an object the eye becomes accustomed to. People walk past it, under it. Sometimes a jacket is hung on it. Sometimes keys are left beneath it. According to Pio, this is the moment when, even if the cross remains physically in place, it begins to lose its spiritual function. Because the sacred loses its effect where attention is completely lost. The cross weakens not when it is forgotten, but when its presence becomes familiar. Padre Pio particularly emphasized that the relationship of those living in the house where the cross is located is important. If there is constant anger, resentment, and unforgiveness among the household, the cross remains there as a symbol, but it does not function as a boundary, because the cross is a sign of surrender, not conflict. To constantly harbor resentment beneath it is like locking the door and leaving the key outside. According to Pio, this is why some people say, "I have a cross in my house, but there is no peace." The problem is not the cross itself. The problem is the disconnect between the meaning the cross represents and life. Another common mistake is placing the cross haphazardly. Pio did not approve of hanging the cross randomly on a wall, behind a shelf, or in a corner where no one could see it. According to him, this is a message given to the subconscious. This is important, but not now. Emotional boundaries cannot be postponed. According to Padre Pio, a home is not just four walls, it is a boundary, a threshold, and what enters through this threshold is often determined, albeit unconsciously. Therefore, in his teachings, the entrance door, is the most critical point where spiritual protection begins. Padre Pio would say that everything that enters a home, people, intentions, emotions, even unseen influences, first passes through the door. The door is not merely a physical passage, it is also a spiritual filter. If this filter is not consciously marked, the home becomes equally open to everything. This is precisely where the place of the cross at the entrance door gains meaning. According to Padre Pio, when the cross stands above the door, it does not utter a threat, shout, or frighten. It simply says, "Beyond this point lies a sacred space." This sentence is not expressed in words, but symbolically. The cross is the clearest expression of this symbol. Pio specifically recommended that the cross be placed not behind the door, but on the inside, and if possible, directly above the door, because this placement ensures that everyone entering the house, whether consciously or unconsciously, passes under this sign. According to him, this is a powerful message in the spiritual world. A cross hung next to the door, in the corner, or in a place where it is not visible does not create the same effect. Because boundaries must be clear. Vague boundaries do not produce protection. Another point Padre Pio drew attention to was this. The cross on the entrance door speaks not only to the outside, but also to the inside. It makes a silent reminder to those living in the house with every entry and exit. What kind of person are you entering this house as? With anger, resentment, or gratitude? According to Pio, the cross also regulates a person's inner world as they enter through the door. That's why in some houses, even though the cross is in the right place, it feels ineffective, because the people entering through the door do not heed the call of that sign. However, the cross still does its job. It calls, it is up to the person to hear. Padre Pio used to describe how some families with crosses at their entrances changed over time without realizing it. Arguments begin to stay outside the door. Voices fall as people enter the house. Steps slow down. It works not like a miracle, but like discipline, because the cross creates a pause upon entering the house. That pause tempers many spiritual excesses before they enter. According to Pio, the devil is most disturbed by this pause because his influence spreads rapidly, thoughtlessly, and without limits. The cross above the door represents the opposite: slowness, awareness, and permission. If there is no cross at the entrance of the house, or if there is, it is in a random place, Padre Pio would say that this is a deficiency. This deficiency does not immediately cause a catastrophe, but over time it creates an inexplicable feeling of disarray in the house. People ask, why are we restless, but cannot find the answer? Yet the answer is often above the door, or it is not there where it should be. In Pio's teaching, the entrance door is the first link in the spiritual order. If this link is weak, no balance established inside can last long. That is why he advised placing the cross in the most visible but simplest place in the house, not ostentatious, not to attract attention, but firmly and clearly, because true protection begins not with noise, but with boundary. Padre Pio even advised moderation regarding the height of the cross on the entrance door. A cross hung too high would go unnoticed. One too low would blend in with everyday objects and lose its sanctity. According to him, the ideal height is one where a person cannot pass over without having to raise their head too much, but also without consciously noticing. Because the cross is not a sign that forces one to look, it is a sign that stops when noticed. This small pause allows the person entering the house to perceive their state of mind. Pio meant precisely this when he said, "One who cannot pause for a moment upon entering through the door cannot bring peace inside." Another important detail is the difference between the outer and inner surfaces of the door. Padre Pio particularly emphasized that the cross was placed to protect the inside, not the outside. Therefore, he advised that the cross be hung on the inside of the door, not the outside. A cross hung outside often becomes a mere sign, A cross hung inside serves as a boundary. According to Pio, true spiritual protection is not displayed or proclaimed, it is lived silently. The cross inside the door is directed towards the household. The question, how do you cross this threshold, is first posed to the homeowner. Padre Pio's most subtle yet profound teaching was this: the cross at the entrance is not only to keep the devil out, it is also to cleanse the inner world of the person who is about to enter the house. According to Padre Pio, nights are when a person is most vulnerable. Thoughts that occupy the mind during the day fall silent at night. The body sleeps, but consciousness does not completely shut down. This intermediate state, the fine line between sleep and wakefulness, is when spiritual influences are most easily felt. Therefore, Padre Pio considered the bedroom the most sensitive area of the house. He believed that many people are strong during the day but disintegrate at night. Logic prevails during the day, but fears, repressed emotions, and unseen influences emerge at night. The cross in the bedroom, therefore, carries a special function. This cross is not a barrier against the outside world. It is a boundary against one's own inner darkness. Padre Pio would first ask people who woke up restlessly at night, frequently had nightmares, or fell asleep with an inexplicable feeling of heaviness about their bedroom. Was there a cross? And if so, where was it? Often, the cross was either in the wrong place or completely forgotten, because the placement of the cross in the bedroom is not as free as in the living room or entrance hall. Here, measure, balance, and silence are essential. According to Pio, the cross should never be placed directly opposite the bed, at eye level, in a way that creates subconscious tension. The cross is there to protect, not to frighten. Therefore, the ideal place is above the headboard or on the side wall, a point where one doesn't look directly while sleeping, but is aware of its presence. This placement sends the message to the subconscious: you are not alone, but you are not under pressure either. Padre Pio's warnings about the night are very clear. Night is a time when one should not enter without clearing one's thoughts. If the cross is in the right place in the bedroom, this cleansing begins silently. Before falling asleep, one subtly slows down, breathing becomes regulated, and heart rate calms. This doesn't feel like a miracle, it's like a natural regulation. But if the cross is in the wrong place, especially directly opposite the bed or in a dominant position very close to the headboard, then restlessness may increase throughout the night. According to Pio, when some people say, "I have a cross, but I can't sleep comfortably at night," they are actually describing this unbalanced placement. The problem is not with the sacred object itself, but with its relationship to consciousness. Padre Pio also disapproved of the haphazard placement of multiple sacred objects in the bedroom. Crosses, rosaries, icons, all are powerful, but the bedroom is not a place of worship. It is a space for rest and surrender. Too many symbols unconsciously stimulate the mind and tire the subconscious throughout the night. Pio's approach is simple. A cross is enough, but in the right place and with the right intention. Long prayers to the cross before bedtime are not necessary. In fact, according to Pio, the most effective nightly phrase is very short: "I leave this night to you." When this phrase is spoken, the cross is no longer just a symbol on the wall. It becomes a boundary entrusted with the night. In many testimonies Pio recounts, people say that after moving the cross, their dreams become calmer, their nighttime awakenings decrease, and they wake up more rested in the mornings. This change is not sudden, but lasting, because nighttime protection works not with noise, but with silence. The cross does not speak, awaken, or frighten throughout the night. It is simply there, and that is precisely why it is effective. Padre Pio's final advice regarding the bedroom was this: don't try to control the night. Surrender to the night. The cross is the silent witness to this surrender. If it's in the right place, the night is with you, not against you. Padre Pio also advised paying attention to the cleanliness and simplicity of the wall where the cross is located in the bedroom. He said that clutter, disorder, or heavy objects around the cross create a subconscious feeling of burden throughout the night. The bedroom is where all the noise of the day ceases. Therefore, the surroundings of the cross should serve this silence. Loud colors, cluttered shelves, or objects that stimulate the mind weaken the state of surrender that the cross represents. According to Pio, the cross speaks more powerfully when it stands on a simple background, because the knight wants to hear clarity, not chaos. Another important point is the personal relationship established with the cross in the bedroom. Padre Pio said that most people only notice the cross during difficult times, ignoring it when there is peace. However, the protection of the knight is strengthened not in times of need, but through continuity. It's not necessary to look at the cross and say long prayers before going to bed. Sometimes just a brief glance, sometimes a single heartfelt breath is enough. This small touch leaves the message, "I am safe," in the subconscious. One of Padre Pio's harshest and most misunderstood warnings concerned the unconsecrated cross. People often defended it, believing their intentions were good. However, Padre Pio specifically emphasized that intention alone is insufficient. According to him, an unconsecrated cross is not inherently bad, but it is incomplete. And what is lacking in the spiritual realm often leaves a person vulnerable, often without their realizing it. Pio didn't define an unconsecrated cross as dysfunctional. He saw it as incomplete. This is a crucial distinction, because something incomplete appears to exist but doesn't fully perform its function. People are mistaken at this point. They think they have a cross in their home. They feel protected, but the boundaries are unclear. According to Padre Pio, this is the most dangerous spiritual state, believing one is protected but not being protected. An unconsecrated cross is like a keyhole. The door is there, but the lock won't turn. Without consecration, the cross is a symbol. With consecration, it becomes a declaration. In Pio's teachings, consecration is not a magical process. It doesn't require elaborate rituals or lengthy speeches. The blessing separates the cross from its material form and connects it to intention. It transforms it from a mere object into a spiritual boundary. That's why Pio would tell those who bought a cross and brought it home not to hang it immediately. He would ask them to pause first. No cross hung without first asking the question, "Why is this cross here?" would begin its true purpose. People often want to put the cross in its place as quickly as possible because the feeling of emptiness is unsettling. But according to Pio, that brief pause, that conscious hesitation, is the blessing itself. If a cross has been blessed by a priest, that is a great blessing. But even if it hasn't, the cross is not powerless. It simply awaits the conscious intention of its owner. Padre Pio suggested a very simple sentence that anyone could utter. Not loudly, not ostentatiously. It was a sentence to be spoken only in a quiet moment, holding the cross in one's hand or looking at its location. "I place this cross in this house with the intention of protecting this family and this spirit." According to Pio, this sentence establishes a connection between the cross and the home. Without establishing a connection, no boundary can be drawn. One of the most common mistakes people make is thinking of blessing as a one-time act. According to Padre Pio, blessing is an action performed once, but its effect continues through the relationship. If no relationship is established with the cross, if it is passed by, if objects are piled under it, if its existence is forgotten, then over time that bond weakens. The cross remains, but its meaning fades. At this point, people begin to complain again. It doesn't feel the same as before. According to Pio, the problem is not in the feeling, but in the bond. When the bond is broken, the protection becomes silent. Another important mistake is associating an unblessed cross with fear. Some people hang the cross simply to ward off evil. While this intention may seem correct on the surface, it is incomplete at a deeper level. Because the cross does not feed on fear, the cross feeds on belonging. Padre Pio had a very clear statement. The devil is not bothered by a cross hung out of fear. He stays away from one hung out of submission. Therefore, the state of mind is more important than the words used during blessing. Panic, haste, anxiety, none of these strengthen the consecration. Calmness, awareness, and determination, however, make the cross a silent boundary. The final, and perhaps most subtle, point regarding the unconsecrated cross is this. When consecrated, the cross does not cause harm, but it can lead to complacency. The thought, "There is a cross, that's enough," loosens spiritual awareness. Padre Pio's warning on this matter is actually very compassionate. He doesn't blame or frighten people. He simply reminds them what is sacred demands seriousness. The cross, however simple, remains silent when not placed with awareness. But when consecrated, when a connection is made, and when supported by intention, it protects without speaking. And the strongest protection indeed is silent. Padre Pio also drew attention to another subtle misconception regarding the unconsecrated cross. People thinking that consecration is someone else's responsibility. The thought, "A priest should do it, I can't," leaves the person passive. According to Pio, every person is responsible for the spiritual order of their own home. The blessing given by the priest is certainly valuable, but without the conscious intention of the homeowner, this blessing alone is insufficient. The cross carries the responsibility not only of the one who blesses it, but also of the one who lives beneath it. That is why Pio taught people to connect with their own homes, because protection is not transferable, it is something to be taken ownership of. The testimonies of those who listen to and practice Padre Pio's teachings often begin not with great miracles, but with small but lasting changes. Because, according to Padre Pio, true transformation doesn't make noise. When people came to him, they usually had a major problem: unending unrest at home, pointless arguments, a heaviness that descended at night, an indescribable tension. Pio, however, would often start with a very simple question: do you have a cross in your house, and if so, where? This question seemed ordinary at first glance, but the answers revealed a profound picture. Most testimonies show that the change isn't immediately noticeable after the cross is placed, or its position is adjusted. On the first day, it feels as if nothing has happened. The same goes for the second day. But after a few weeks, people stop and say, "We're not as tense as before." According to Padre Pio, this delay is not a deficiency, but a sign, because the devil loves sudden changes, while the sacred works slowly and profoundly. The first change frequently mentioned in the testimonies is the dimming of voices, Conversations at home become calmer, arguments are shorter, and the need to shout decreases. No one consciously says, "Let's be quiet now." It happens spontaneously. Pio explained this situation as follows: when a boundary is drawn, spirits do not raise their voices. The second common testimony is an improvement in sleep patterns, especially after the cross is placed in the correct location in the bedroom. People begin to wake up less often and sleep more deeply. Nightmares decrease, and sudden fears in the middle of the night become less frequent. This change often goes unnoticed until one morning the person says, "I woke up truly rested today." According to Padre Pio, this is related to the spirit being less vigilant during the night. If there is a boundary, the spirit does not stand guard. Another striking testimony is a change in the feeling of the air in the house. People find it difficult to describe, but they use similar words: fresher, lighter, as if something has been lifted. Pio would nod his head when he heard these expressions, because according to him, the cross not only drives away evil, it also doesn't hold on to unnecessary burdens, old resentments, unspoken words, and suppressed anger that accumulate at home soften over time. They don't all disappear at once, but their effects diminish. One of the most striking aspects of these testimonies is that the change isn't limited to the home. The inhabitants become calmer when they are outside as well, at work, on the street, in traffic, because the home is the spiritual center of a person. The boundaries drawn there are reflected in one's inner world. Padre Pio's approach to this was very clear. The order of the home teaches the order of the soul. The quietest but most powerful of these testimonies is the change in habits. People slow down without realizing it when entering the door, pause briefly before going to bed, and feel a sense of gratitude when leaving the house in the morning. No one assigns this as a task. It's the influence of the environment. According to Pio, this is exactly how sacred order works. It doesn't command, it doesn't impose, it doesn't frighten, it only guides. Therefore, these testimonies are not proof, but signs. They don't say, "Look, a miracle happened." They say, "Things have fallen into place." And according to Padre Pio, this sentence is the most reliable indicator that spiritual protection has begun. Because true change doesn't shout, it makes itself felt. Another common point in these testimonies is that change is often noticed in times of crisis. On normal days, everything seems ordinary, but when unexpected tension, a sudden argument, or difficult news arrives, people say, "This used to shatter us, but now we can pull ourselves together." According to Padre Pio, this is the clearest indicator of protection. Because spiritual boundaries reveal themselves not when life is without problems, but when under pressure. When the cross is in the right place and with the right intention, the house may shake, but it will not fall apart. In some testimonies, the change is revealed in how the household members look at each other. People judge less, are quieter more quickly, and notice things sooner. A small word is stopped before it escalates. An old resentment is extinguished before it flares up. According to Pio, this is related to the cross creating a point of balance in the house. Not everyone consciously strives to be better, but the environment tempers excesses. That's why those giving testimony often don't say "we've changed," but rather "the house has changed." What has actually changed is the invisible flow within the house. According to Padre Pio, protection begins with a single right action, but continues with small daily acts of devotion. People often seek powerful, long, complex rituals. However, Padre Pio taught that spiritual order lies in simplicity. For him, the cross begins its function when placed in the correct location, but for this function to remain alive, the household must make a small, albeit unconscious, connection with it every day. This connection doesn't have to be a prayer, kneeling, or spending long periods of time in worship. What truly matters is pausing at a moment in the day and saying, "I am here." Pio particularly recommended the evening hours. When the day ends, when the house slows down, when the lights dim, because evening is the time for quietly taking stock of the day. A brief pause, looking at the place where the cross is located, makes one aware of the accumulated chaos of the day. This pause often lasts only a few seconds, but its effect is long-lasting. Padre Pio's suggested daily small ritual consists of 3 steps, deliberately kept simple. The first is gratitude. There is no need to seek grand things at the end of the day. Even phrases like, "We didn't fight today," "It was a quiet evening," or "I'm tired, but I'm here," are enough. Gratitude softens the rhythm within the home. The second is forgiveness. This forgiveness isn't loudly proclaimed, nor is it stated to whom. It's a brief, heartfelt release, because, according to Pio, resentments carried within the home make the silent work of the cross difficult. The third and final step is surrender. Pio frequently repeated a very short phrase, "I trust." This word is more effective than long explanations, because surrender strengthens boundaries. These 3 steps together take less than a minute, but when done regularly, they change the atmosphere of the home. People forget they are performing this ritual after a while because it becomes a flow, not a chore. According to Pio, this is the main goal. The sacred is powerful not when it needs to be reminded, but when it is integrated into life. The effect of this small daily ritual is reflected in behavior over time. The household slows down when entering through the door, calms down more quickly when going to bed at night, and doesn't rush when waking up in the morning. No one says, "We are like this because we perform a ritual," because these changes don't scream. But the tension inside the house decreases, impatience is tempered, and restlessness quickly dissipates. Padre Pio's closing advice was always calm. He didn't want to hold people captive with fear. He wouldn't say, "If you do something wrong, it will be a disaster." His message was deeper. What is right slows you down. That is the role of the cross in the home, not to frighten, but to slow down. This is also the final stage of the small daily ritual. Without realizing it, people rush less, become less rigid, and this state is the strongest stance against the unseen world. Because according to Padre Pio, the devil loves haste. The sacred works patiently. That's why he always said the same thing to those who had a cross in their home, but whose lives were still very noisy. Don't add anything, subtract something. More silence, not more words. More trust, not more fear. The only thing to remember at the end is this: the cross is not a threat, nor is it a proclamation. The cross is a silent reminder within the home. Not everything in this house has to be under control. When this sentence is experienced, protection begins, and this protection continues not with ostentation, but with loyalty. Padre Pio particularly emphasized that the most important feature of this small ritual is that it asterisk does not create a sense of obligation. Asterisk. When a person feels obligated, the ritual becomes a duty. And when it becomes a duty, the spirit withdraws. Continuity is only maintained with a gentle attitude. The last truth Padre Pio always reminded us of when conveying this teaching was this: protection is not an invisible armor, it is a lived state. When the cross, ritual, and intention come together, the house does not become a sacred fortress, but a asterisk, safe sanctuary. Asterisk. When a person enters the house, they lower their shoulders, exhale, and soften their voice. When this state occurs, there is no longer a need to look for an additional sign, because the house has begun to say in its own silent language, there is no rush here. There are boundaries here. There is security here. If this video touched you, you can support the continuation of these silent teachings by subscribing to our channel. And before you end the video, just write, "I am protected by the cross." In the comments, this will be a small act of kindness on your part and will help this video reach more people.